Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel once again, and we are just a few days away from UFC 273, a huge pay-per-view we have in our hands this weekend with Alexander Volkanovski defending the UFC featherweight title against the Korean Zombie in the main event. The UFC bantamweight title will also be on the line when Aljamain Sterling fights Peter Yan in the co-main event. Yan is of course the interim champion heading into this fight. However, the fight that everyone seems to be talking about heading into UFC 273 is the one between Gilbert Burns and Khamzat Chimaev. You have the undefeated Chimaev, who is going up against his toughest test till date in the form of former title contender, that is Gilbert Burns. And yeah, as you've guessed it by now, judging by the title of this video, in this video I'll specifically be talking about the Burns versus Chimaev showdown, which is set to take place at UFC 273. And without any further ado, welcome to the new video. Let's get straight into it. Alright, first and foremost, the narrative heading into this fight is of course the fact that Khamzat Chimaev is still unbeaten in the UFC. And at this point, it feels as if he's almost next to untouchable. I mean, look at the way all his fights have played out so far. It certainly feels that Chimaev is untouchable. I mean, the guy has been hit just once so far since signing with the promotion, so that technically makes sense. But like I said, Chimaev is unbeaten. He's 3-0 at welterweight, and to make things even more ridiculous by his standards, this guy had gone up to middleweight and he knocked out Gerald Meerschaert inside 17 seconds. And while you might see many people arguing with the fact that Chimaev has fought just one legit contender at welterweight so far in the form of Li Jingliang, is this the right call for the UFC to put him in a fight against Gilbert Burns at this stage? I'll tell you guys this. Khamzat Chimaev is as confident as they come. I mean, this guy is hungry for competition. He wants to fight all the time. And considering how he absolutely dismantled someone like Jing Liang in his last fight, means that this was indeed the right time for the UFC to book Khamzat against a top contender. And there is no better way to do it other than a fight against Gilbert Burns. Someone who has very good striking and is an absolute killer on the ground. Stylistically, this is a perfect matchup for Chimaev, given how good he is while standing up and even when the fights get taken to the ground. But at the same time, this could turn out to be a very risky matchup for Chimaev as well. I mean, you never know. In short, I believe this will be Chimaev's make or break fight. If he wins this, he absolutely deserves to be at the top of the division, and his name needs to be mentioned alongside the likes of Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns, and the champion Kamaru Usman. If he doesn't win this fight, then full credits to Gilbert Burns for fighting the number 11th ranked fighter, despite him being ranked at number 2 at welterweight. I mean, full respect to Burns. Now, how do I think Khamzat Chimaev versus Gilbert Burns will play out? Now, interestingly enough, the one thing that I want to see out of this fight is Khamzat Chimaev being taken to the second round of a fight. So far in his UFC career, 3 of Chimaev's fights have ended in the first round. So the one thing I would like to see Gilbert Burns do here is test Chimaev's cardio. Now, I know it is almost a guarantee that Chimaev's cardio is already on an elite level. However, I would really like to see Burns test his cardio levels by taking this fight to the ground, working on Chimaev while being on the mat and trying to slowly tire him out and see how this fight plays out. Honestly, I do believe the best possible way for how Burns could win this fight is by taking this fight to the ground. If Burns decides to stand up with Chimaev, there are high chances of him getting knocked out, much like the fight against Kamaru Usman. I just feel that on the feet, Burns versus Chimaev is almost going to be as similar as Burns versus Usman was. So I do think Burns' best possible approach to win this fight is by taking it to the mat. But yeah, nonetheless, I will have to go with Khamzat Chimaev in this fight. He has to be the favorite to walk out with a win here. I mean, initially, I remember I had said prior to UFC 267 that Li Jingliang was going to cause a lot of troubles to Chimaev, and honestly, at that point, Jingliang was indeed Chimaev's biggest fight till date. But now, heading into UFC 273, I do feel that Chimaev is the favorite to win. At one point, I did think that the UFC could take a slow approach with Khamzat by giving him a fight against Neil Magny. Magny had been calling Khamzat out for months, but at this given moment, I'm completely fine with this UFC matchmaking, and I cannot wait to see how Khamzat Chimaev does when he steps into the octagon with a former title contender. And of course, a victory here. I mean, there is no question that Khamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman is the fight to make. After Usman versus Leon Edwards is done, I mean, we're all expecting Usman to beat Edwards once again, and no disrespect to him, but at this point, at one point in his career, I do think that Edwards was almost in a similar situation as Burns is right now. He was the top contender that the UFC had matched up Khamzat Chimaev against, but of course, that fight never happened. But yeah, like I said, Khamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman has to be one of the biggest fights in welterweight history at this moment, and we can all just hope that this fight takes place with a potential victory for Chimaev this weekend against Gilbert Burns. So yeah, that's my take on the upcoming Khamzat Chimaev versus Gilbert Burns fight at UFC 273. I do think the winner is going to get a title shot next, despite Colby Covington being in the mix. But yeah, let's see what happens this weekend at UFC 273. And that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.